So this is the thing that's powering it. Yeah, so both of those get powered if it's sending a signal, and unpowered if it's not sending a signal. Both of those get powered if there isn't anything plugged in. Let's have a look. So first let's have a node that says it's wired, and a node that says powered on. So select those two again and change the name of one. Press OK. Now they both have the same name. Let's just change this to the same color so we can easily identify it. So then we can wire that in there, wire that in there. So if either of these are true, so if we just make a new node and make this no port so that it doesn't have a thing going out or coming in, then we can wire them both in. And you see this this icon, that's actually the same as the OR gate icon. So it's the same as plugging these two into an OR gate and then using that, but we're just doing it through a node. But in fact we can just, because we're powering multiple gadgets, we can put all of that stuff into one chip. So if we do that, then instead of powering this and powering that separately, we can just power that chip. Oh yeah, this needs to be not, doesn't it? So if it's not wired, then just turn it on anyway. So is it wired? If it's not wired, power it. But if it is wired and it's sending an on signal, then power it as well. So if either of those are true, it will be powering the chip, which in turn, if I make sure that's on, which in turn powers this whole microchip. So if we add that switch again, so it's wired, but it's sending in on and off signal, so the chip isn't powered, and neither is this stuff. It's wired, but it's on, so the chip is powered, and so is that stuff. It's not wired, so the chip is on, and so is that stuff. So that's all fine. So now that works the same as it did before, but we actually have a chip here already. So we can in fact just put all that stuff in here and no change will happen. And it looks like that same value is going into a property on here. So we can actually, so it's going into this node and it's going into a setting on here. So instead of getting it from up there, we can just get it from the node, like that. So it's the same exact value happening, but it's just all tidy coming in one place. Cool. Oh, that's interesting. It uses keyframes instead. Right. So if the rotation speed is greater than 0, it powers both of those. So an effect field, if it's in a chip, will affect anything inside the same chip, but nothing above it. So in here or below it, like in a nested chip. So it'll just affect this this grinder loop effect thing, and we're powering that to different degrees, it looks like, the actual effect, but we're powering the loop fully. So anything that isn't 0 is affecting it. So it's adding 20% volume and it's pitching it up, and it's affecting the EQ to some degree. So what we can actually do is use a keyframe to do those same changes to this. I'll just get this roughly the same. It also adds 20%, so let's add 20% to make it 80. And the pitch goes up by 4. I think that's everything. But then we'll do the same on this one as well. I don't know, that'll do. So cool. So all that is in one keyframe now. So if we delete those things were being powered by the effect, by this wire coming from here. So if we power that into here, it does exactly the same thing. These are basically keyframes, but they apply to any sound gadget that they happen to apply to, or any notes you play in the performance view. Get those settings applied to it. So now if I delete those, we should get the same effect. So when it's slower, yeah, you can hear the sounds changing because of that keyframe. So now instead of that powering these different chips and stuff, it can just have one chip and power that whole chip, basically, as long as it's greater than 0. So as it's looking for greater than 0, you can actually just wire that in there, because if it's not greater than 0, that won't be receiving any power anyway. And this stuff doesn't need to happen if that isn't powered as well. Also, the speaker won't do anything unless there are sounds to happen, so we can put it in there as well. And I'll grab this wire, because it's got all these pins on it. If I grab the wire and then press circle, it will just reset it to being normal swoofy mode wires. I'd like to thank Shadow of Callus, VGA Port Authority, Dead MC, and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Check out TAPgiles.com to find out how you can support me in helping Dreams creators. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.